You won't believe the devastating truth the queen of country, Reba McEntire, had revealed about her stepson's final days. Brandon Blackstock, a man once full of charm and energy, was quietly fighting a battle that almost no one knew about. Behind the smile he showed to the world, he was suffering in silence, and not even the closest fans could have imagined the reality he lived through. Let me tell you, this was not just another sad headline from the entertainment world. This was a story of love, resilience, and a connection that no divorce or distance could break. Reba had been through many ups and downs in her career, but nothing had prepared her for the pain of losing Brandon. This is how it all began. Back in the late 1980s, Reba McEntire was riding high on success, becoming one of country music's brightest stars. It was during this time that she met Narvel Blackstock, a former steel guitar player who had turned into a music manager. Their professional connection quickly turned personal, and soon they became inseparable. In 1989, they married in a private ceremony on a boat in Lake Tahoe. But when Reba said, "I do," she wasn't just marrying Narvel, she was stepping into a ready-made family. That family included Narvel's children from his previous marriage, and among them was a young Brandon Blackstock. From the start, what makes this story different is how Reba approached her role. Instead of keeping a distance or falling into the usual stepmother-stepson tension, she embraced Brandon as if he were her own child. She wanted to give him a home filled with love, stability, and care. Brandon, in return, saw in her a maternal figure who was truly invested in his happiness. Their bond grew naturally, without any force, and over the years, it only became stronger. By 1990, Reba and Narvel had their own child together, Shelby, but that did not change her feelings for Brandon. She loved both boys equally and never allowed bloodlines to decide who was family in her heart. The craziest part was that Brandon was not just a part of family gatherings. He was right there by Reba's side at concerts, backstage, and at special occasions. Friends and relatives recalled how she always made him feel included, and Brandon cherished that deeply. But here is the shocking part. Even as their relationship was strong, cracks began to appear in Reba's marriage to Narvel. This is where it gets interesting. After 26 years of marriage, in 2015, Reba and Narvel divorced, shocking fans who had always seen them as one of country music's strongest couples. For many families, this would have been the end of the step relationship, a moment where both sides quietly drift away. But Reba made a choice that would define the years to come. She refused to let the divorce change her relationship with Brandon. She stood firm, telling people that he was her stepson for life, that she loved him and would always be in his corner. And she proved it not just with words, but with actions. Even as Brandon lived his own life, including his marriage to Kelly Clarkson, Reba remained a constant presence. Kelly herself praised Reba, saying their friendship was real and not based on convenience. Behind the public smiles and kind words, Reba and Brandon still met, still shared memories, and still kept their bond strong. But while the outside world saw a happy and close connection, something darker was already moving quietly in the background. A battle Brandon had chosen to keep hidden, a fight that would test the strength of everyone around him. Brandon had always been known for his energy, his charm, and his ability to light up a room. But slowly, signs began to appear that something wasn't right. At first, they were so small that only those who knew him well could sense the change. A little more fatigue than usual, moments when his energy seemed to fade, unexplained weight changes that he brushed off as nothing serious. You won't believe how well he hid it from everyone. Even in his quietest, most tired moments, he would smile, crack a joke, and carry on as if nothing was wrong. Let me tell you, this wasn't just stubbornness. This was Brandon's way of protecting the people he loved. Those closest to him would later share that he made a deliberate choice to keep his illness private. He didn't want pity. He didn't want headlines about his health overshadowing his work or his family. He wanted life to feel normal for as long as possible. This is how he lived, by thinking of others before himself. Even Reba, who had been part of his life for decades, didn't know how serious things were at first. But here is the shocking part. Brandon had been diagnosed with cancer, and it was not a short fight. He had been carrying this weight for years, battling it quietly while continuing to work and show up for the people he cared about. Family insiders later said that during events, Brandon would be smiling for pictures while dealing with unimaginable pain just hours earlier. He kept pushing through, as if refusing to let the disease define his life. The craziest part is that in March 2025, just months before his passing, he attended the Houston rodeo with Reba, Kelly Clarkson, and other family members. From the outside, it looked like a joyful family outing, but in reality, it was one of the last times he would be seen in public, a moment he used to create memories rather than dwell on the time he had left. This is where it gets interesting. Despite his condition worsening, Brandon didn't let go of his role as a father, friend, and son. He still made calls, planned visits, and tried to be present. Reba would later reveal how much strength it must have taken for him to hide his suffering, to keep that brave face on for the people he loved. She noticed the little things, the way he sometimes winced when he thought no one was looking, or how his smile would fade when the room was empty. But she also saw his courage, and she made a silent promise to be there for him, no matter how hard the road ahead would become. Destiny took an unexpected turn as summer 2025 approached. Brandon's health began to decline faster than anyone had expected. The treatments were no longer enough, the exhaustion was becoming heavier, and the pain was harder to hide. Reba knew the time had come to step in fully, to put her career, her schedule, and the rest of the world aside, and focus entirely on the man she had loved as a son for more than 3 decades. By the time summer 2025 arrived, Brandon's illness had reached a point where every day felt heavier than the last. You won't believe how quickly things changed. Just months earlier, he had been laughing with family at the rodeo, but now, even the simplest moments required strength he could barely muster. Reba, knowing what was coming, cleared her calendar completely. She didn't show up as the queen of country or the celebrity everyone admired. She showed up as a mother who refused to let her child face the end alone. Let me tell you, those last weeks were not filled with grand speeches or constant tears. They were quiet, deeply personal moments. The kind where a simple touch or a shared glance said more than words ever could. Reba sat by his side for hours, sometimes talking about old memories, sometimes just holding his hand while the world outside went on as usual. She respected the moments when he wanted to talk, but she also understood the times when silence was what he needed most. But here is the shocking part. Even in those final days, Brandon was still thinking about others. He didn't want to be a burden. He worried more about how Reba and the rest of the family were coping than about himself. This is how he had always been, selfless, caring, and determined to protect the people he loved from pain, even when he was the one enduring the most. The craziest part was how strong he remained on the outside. Friends who visited in those last days said he greeted them with a smile, asked about their lives, and barely mentioned his own condition unless they pressed him. He didn't want anyone's last memory of him to be one of weakness or sorrow. Reba would later share that she had never seen such quiet courage, a bravery that didn't shout, but whispered through every choice he made. Destiny took an unexpected turn on August 7th, 2025. Surrounded by loved ones, Brandon's long battle with cancer finally came to an end. Reba was there in those final moments, holding his hand, telling him he was loved, and making sure he knew he was not alone as he took his last breath. It was a moment that shattered her heart, but also one that she knew was filled with peace for him at last. The room was quiet. but the weight of that silence would stay with her forever. The news of Brandon's passing spread quickly, and the shock rippled far beyond the walls of the family home. You won't believe how deeply it touched people who had never even met him. Fans, friends, and fellow artists flooded social media with tributes, sharing stories of how Reba's music had helped them through their own losses, and now they wanted to give her the same comfort. Let me tell you, the outpouring of love was overwhelming. But even with all the messages, the pain for Reba was something no one else could truly measure. This is how the days that followed unfolded. Reba spent much of her time quietly reflecting, revisiting old photographs and memories of Brandon's life, from the boy she had met in the late 80s to the man he had become. Kelly Clarkson, despite her divorce from Brandon, wrote a heartfelt message honoring his resilience and his role as a father, saying that his courage had left a permanent mark on her and their children. Brandon's father, Narvel Blackstock, stayed away from the public eye, but those close to him said the loss had cut deeper than words could express. But here's the shocking part. The photos from the Houston rodeo in March 2025, once just happy family snapshots, now carried a heavy new meaning. People look back at them and realize they were witnessing one of his last joyful public moments, a final chapter written before anyone outside the family knew the truth. This is where it gets interesting. Reba hinted that she wanted to honor Brandon's life in a lasting way, with talks of a possible charity initiative or benefit concert to support cancer research. It wasn't just about keeping his name alive. It was about turning his silent fight into something that could help others. The craziest part is how this loss became more than just a personal heartbreak. It became a reminder to everyone who heard the story. As Reba herself said, "You don't get over a loss like this. You just learn to live with it." She knew that no headline, no tribute, and no award could ever fill the space Brandon left behind. But she also knew that his legacy was more than the illness that took him. It was the love he gave, the kindness he showed, and the quiet strength he carried to the very end. Destiny took an unexpected turn for both of them the day they met all those years ago, and it took another the day he passed. They were never linked by blood, but their connection was unshakable, defined by loyalty, care, and a shared understanding of what it meant to be family. Brandon's passing at just 48 years old became a painful reminder of how fragile life truly is and how silent battles can be fought right in front of us without us ever knowing. His courage, his love, and his story will live on, not just in the memories of those who loved him, but in the hearts of everyone who hears it.